10-year-old lord. His lord is kidnapped by a big nasty samurai while our hero's arm is chopped off and he's pretty much left for dead. He wakes up with a primitive prosthetic arm that works as a gadget, and he sets out to find his lord and get revenge. From Software is using a historical period of Japan sort of as a starting point, because from there you're going to see lots of fantastical places and creatures if the footage we've seen tells us anything. One interesting thing to note, Dark Souls' famed leader Hidetaka Miyazaki said although he is game director, he wasn't on writing duties for this one. He said partly because of that, patches won't be in this one. Just a heads up. Now at number 9, there's been a lot of talk about the viability of pure single-player games as of late, but rest assured, Sekiro is straight up a single-player experience. In an interview with Twinfinite, From Software's Yasuhiro Kitao reiterated that single-player was the focus by stating, and I quote, "In this title, they made the decision to go with a single character, and in addition, they've decided to focus specifically on the single-player experience of this game, so they're not planning on multiplayer." Now, while it might come as a relief to some who wanted the experience to remain totally pure, keep in mind this also means that unlike previous games from the FromSoft library, other players won't be able to invade your games to, mess your shit up, nor will you be able to call in another player for assistance like you could in Dark Souls or Bloodborne. Still, it's refreshing to see another developer take a hard stance in defense of making a straight-up single-player game, and we appreciate that. Next at number 8, let's talk about the game world. From the get-go, Souls fans had questions about the game world and structure of Sekiro compared to the games that came before it, and thankfully FromSoft's Yasuhiro Kitao hasn't exactly been tight-lipped about the subject. In a 2018 E3 interview with IGN, Kitao said, "If we were to make a comparison, the world structure is closest to Dark Souls 1 in that we have multiple interconnected environments that all have multiple paths to get to each other. Additionally, there's not just one path to take. The player will find several areas and get to make a choice of which one they want to go to first and have agency on how they go through the game." That's promising. And while Souls games have always had a fairly open structure, it's still nice to see that what they're doing here, the level of freedom and making its way into this new project, it really seems like Sekiro is expanding on concepts in new ways. In an interview with GameSoft, From Software's president Hidetaka Miyazaki said that the game is, and I quote, "probably on the higher end of the spectrum in terms of the freedom the player has to explore the world if we're to compare it to our previous games," expressly stating afterwards that the world opens up in a big way pretty early on, giving the player a lot of freedom and choice as to where to go and what to do. One more cool aspect of the world is that it'll have a day-night cycle, and that will have gameplay implications by having more powerful enemies come out in the night, just kind of waiting to mess you up. Now next at number 7, let's talk about general combat, because in this game, when you encounter an enemy, you're not going to immediately start into a battle or combat. The levels are designed to kind of let you observe and think about how you want to take things on. You can essentially hang out on a rooftop and watch and listen in on enemies who aren't fighting. Now according to From Software, the way they broke this down is that there are 3 main actions or gameplay features. The first off is the grappling hook that lets you move vertically in a 3-dimensional map. Then, of course, there's swordplay, there's the combat, there's the striking, dodging, blocking, the offense and defense, and here there's a lot of emphasis on one-hit kills and very precise and important strikes. This is where the challenge in the game is going to lie. When to move, when to use spacing, when to strike, when to block, that type of stuff. It's all a big head game, it seems. Then, of course, the third pillar is what they call, and I quote, killing cleverly. So this is essentially the different approaches to killing, whether it's like your grappling hook and jumping down on a guy, sneaking up and stabbing them in the back, just all-out regular engagement in combat, or leading into number 6, the prosthetic arm. Now, the prosthetic arm is going to be very important with Sekiro, and it acts more as a tool than a weapon at times, and it has different modes that let you use it for a ton of different scenarios. First, of course, there is the grappling hook. That's really going to change how you get around in Sekiro and just makes it way more vertical than previous games from Software. You can use it to get around or use it to hide above enemies before going in for a stealth attack like we mentioned. Then there's the axe, the hidden axe, which can be used for breaking enemy shields or blocks. Then there's a metal fan, which turns into a sort of shield. You can shoot fireworks to distract, confuse, and stun enemies, and there's also a torch that you can use to set your katana on fire. So it's clearly more of a tool than a weapon in some aspects, but it's definitely going to be important to the combat as well, whether you're using the axe to break a shield or setting your katana on fire to just deal some extra damage. It seems like it's cool. Now at number 5, buckle up for this one. Let's talk about the death mechanic, because at the end of the day, this will be a game from the people that brought you Dark Souls and Bloodborne. So it's gonna be hard, and you're gonna die. You're gonna die a lot. So it's important to look into how these deaths function in the greater scheme of things. Now, creator Miyazaki has gone on record saying that there are 3 ways death influences Sekiro. For the gameplay purposes of keeping the flow good and being able to have this risky situation to be able to use it creatively, and also that the story centers around the concept of resurrection.